Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So the big talk on social media right now is the release of Baldur's Gate 3. This is a game that's being talked about for a lot of different reasons, but one of the main reasons is the fact that it contains a very large volume of sexual themes within it. And this has also developed another conversation about the hypocrisy that takes place when it comes to the treatment of Japanese-style games and products, when it comes to fan service and how those are demonized, but when it comes to Western-style games, those same sexual themes are often praised. They're not just accepted, they are praised. And in this case, Baldur's Gate 3 features an immense amount of sexual themes, including full-on nudity and the option to have sex with a bear. Yes, not only is this accepted, but it's being widely praised by journalists. The same Western journalists who normally demonize anime and Japanese-style products, they are now coming on board with Baldur's Gate 3 to not only shill for it, but praise it for all of these sexual themes contained within it. So let's start with this example right here. So IGN came out with this. This is very clearly a paid actor situation. So they had a bunch of Twitch streamers come on, obviously they were paid to do this, and give their reaction to the character creation screen that features an option to see full-on nudity. Now, I'll state the obvious here. If this was a Japanese game, there is absolutely no chance this would be allowed on Steam, for example, without being censored or just outright removed because of those sexual themes. But here, this is not only available on Steam, it's being marketed under this whole option here. This is one of their biggest selling points. All of their public promotions of this game center around sexual themes, including this right here with a full-on nudity option. So the Twitch streamers go through the character creation screen, they do the no clothes option, and then they give a shocked soy face when they see that actual nudity comes up. Which, as a lot of people have pointed out, this is very bizarre because in order to get to that point, the first option on the game menu asks you if you want to show nudity or not. I mean, here it is right here. Show nudity, yes or no, and then you have to continue. So any of those reactions are completely staged, but that's not really surprising. But the point of all that being, that is the marketing point for this game, is sexual themes that normally would get anime games or Japanese-style games demonized for having even a sliver of that much sexual themes contained within them. But nonetheless, a lot of people have pointed out this hypocrisy, while other Twitter users have been trying their best to defend Baldur's Gate 3. Like this weirdo saying that the nudity in BG3 is different than anime-style games because when this weirdo looks at anime characters, he can't stop thinking about children. Not really the defense or the argument they thought that was, but nonetheless, a lot of people started pointing out what we're going to talk about next, and that's the fact that BG3 features a sex scene with a bear. And of course, this guy makes himself the CEO of Banging Bears and tries his best to defend it, but nonetheless, let's look at the shocking twist in today's story. So GameSpot is out here with an article. Of course, the comments are turned off, but they come out here showing a guide and praising this sex scene you can have with a character in their bear form. And we're not talking about furry stuff. We're talking about a straight up bear, like out of the wilderness. So this is something that they are praising and directing players on how to do. Now, the shocking hypocrisy here is that if a anime style game had even the slightest bit of fan service, they would want it censored and they would be demonizing it and calling it, you know, degenerate or something like that. But here, having sex with a bear, it's kosher. It's all good to them. And they're openly showing people how to do this. And of course, the hypocrisy is obvious, and you don't have to look very far with GameSpot, because only a week ago, they made this article celebrating the censorship of Blue Protocol's Western release, and basically mocking anyone who's crying censorship. Well, it is censorship. Like I said, this is something we covered very recently. In that video, we went over some of the censorship changes that are coming to the Western release, which included removing the jiggle physics option, which, I don't know, to me, a jiggle physics option is a lot less degenerate than having sex with a bear, but that's just me. But also, in that same breath, players discovered undisclosed changes like the removal of the S body type option. And in the character creation, that was basically just a small body type option. And in the Western release, that body type is completely gone. Because apparently, being short is not marketable in the West. That's too shocking for the Western audience. But having sex with a bear, that's fine. But here's the thing, too, about the scene itself with the bear. Like, obviously, I'm not looking forward to that. I wouldn't want to participate in that. And that's just me. Like, I think it's just like a weird, silly option if players want to do it. But that's exactly that. If players want to do it, it's optional, okay? And of course, while I think it's weird, I don't think it should be censored. And if you think that bear scene is acceptable and shouldn't be censored, then there's no way you should be censoring your typical fan service from Japanese and anime style games. But nonetheless, let's move on to this here. So a lot of people are pointing out this blatant hypocrisy. We all know that if this game was a Japanese game coming to Steam and Western releases, it would be censored. There's no way full nudity options would be allowed. There's no way this bear scene would be allowed. It's very glaringly obvious that there's something different here about how this game is being treated versus your typical Japanese game. But there's another scene going around. It is very Bleach-worthy. It's a scene where basically you'll walk in on a wolfman banging an ogre. And people are reacting to that by calling it zany and goofy. And I have a theory behind that, but you can see the quote retweet saying, "Journalists will praise this content, but call us degenerates for enjoying anime or attractive fictional characters." And that's very true. I mean, you have that classic trope in anime where people walk in on two characters in a suggestive situation, and that theme, that trope, is demonized. People will call you a coomer and a loser for enjoying stuff like that. But here, it's totally fine. And my theory on this, that not only is it a Western release, but also the reason why people overlook this kind of thing, is because the characters are ugly. They're not your typical beautiful looking characters or anime style characters. They're ugly. And for some reason, if a character is ugly or gross looking, fan service is looked at completely differently. And by the way, there are plenty of people who will get off to looking at this, okay? So that's like the weird thing to me, that somehow the characters being ugly gets a different treatment when it comes to how someone views fan service. But this whole thing, again, it's just so blatantly hypocritical. So some of the creators behind the game have come out and said that they hired voice actors simply to make sexy sounds for the game. If that was a Japanese game, an anime game, and this was the headline, everyone would be roasting it, saying, wow, that's the Coomer game. Oh, this is what incels want. But with this game, widely accepted, and it's viewed as quirky and funny. And I think, getting to the point here, okay, I think it's very obvious that the hypocritical treatment of Japanese games versus Western games is laden with xenophobia. There's really no other way to explain the glaring difference in how these are treated, both by your average Twitter user and the media as well. And I think it's captured by these interactions we're going to look at right now. So there was this innocent post by this Shrek account saying the Shrek poster comparison, US versus Japan. There's barely any difference. But then you have this quote retweet saying, "Japan out here missing the point like it's an Olympic sport." Okay, B-Bud, you're an artist. Please tell us what the difference, the points that we're all missing here is. So let me just read this. It's quite the light novel. It says, "Honestly, I hate Japan, if nothing else, for the brain rot it's given so many here. People out here like, oh yeah, I love stiff animation by underpaid slaved animators, the same tsundere girl archetype in every single goddamn show, and a lack of empathy towards others. I love overcomplicated bland designs, awful, awful, awful characters, and the right-wing morality of assigning everyone into very specific boxes and ranking their literal monetary worth and value as a human being because of things they never got to choose. The normalization of sexual harassment to the point where they're forced to segregate men and women on subways, not to mention the capitalist propaganda rampant in that country that every CEO in America is downright jealous of. I hate anyone who continues to glorify that country." Yeah, I've seen anti-Japanese World War II propaganda that was less racist than this. This perfectly captures the attitudes of people when it comes to Japanese products versus Western products. It's just laden with xenophobia, and it's so normalized that people feel emboldened to just go on a racist rant like this publicly after seeing a Shrek poster. That's how low things have gotten, but it's hardly surprising at this point. But yes, I know today was a loaded video with a lot to talk about, so please feel free to share all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. I appreciate the listen, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.